So today, we're going to dive into a fairy tale you might not know, but trust me, it holds a really powerful lesson. It's a story that kicks off with an act of jealousy so deep it traps a being of pure light inside a single piece of fruit for centuries. And it asks a huge question: can one simple act of kindness actually undo an eternity of darkness?
All right, so let's transport ourselves back in time. We're going way back to an age when the world had, a lot less of us and a whole lot more magic. A time when mountains literally touched the clouds and rivers just shimmered with enchantment. And it's here, in this incredible age, that a very special fairy named Noreen was born.
At the very heart of this story is a conflict that's as old as time itself, a pure, brilliant light and a jealous shadow that is just desperate to snuff it out. So let's meet the two fairies at the center of this epic clash. And wow, you can see the difference right away. On one side, you've got Noreen, a fairy just born from pure magic and kindness. And on the other, there's Maya, a former fairy who got twisted by envy and greed. I mean, one represents creation and the other, pure corruption. First up, there's Noreen, and you should think of her as the embodiment of light itself. Her wings were literally woven from rainbows, and her presence was so powerful that forests would just bloom wherever she walked. And unlike other fairies who were pretty wary of humans, Noreen truly believed that her light and her love could change any heart. And then there's Maya, the perfect darkness to Noreen's light. Now, she was once a fairy herself, but she let jealousy and greed completely corrupt her. For Maya, Noreen's goodness wasn't something to admire. It was like a blinding light that only made her own shadows feel deeper and more hollow. It was a threat that she felt had to be eliminated. Well, that kind of festering envy can't stay bottled up forever. It eventually boiled over into this truly treacherous plan. See, Maya didn't just want to defeat Noreen. She wanted to imprison her, setting a curse in motion that would span centuries and change Noreen's fate forever. So here's how she pulled it off. First, the deceitful gift. With a super sweet voice and a dark heart, Maya offered Noreen this enchanted pomegranate. The second Noreen touched it, Maya unleashed her dark spell, chanting this horrifying mantra. And instantly, a circle of light just wrapped around Noreen, shrinking her down smaller and smaller until she was sealed right inside the fruit itself. "Now you are my prisoner," she declared. And with this triumphant laugh, Maya did something really clever. She cast the pomegranate into the human world, knowing that other fairies would never even think to look for it there. It landed on an ancient tree where it hung for ages, just a faint, lonely glow in the dark. And so Noreen waited. And as you can see, we're not talking about a few years here. Decades turned into centuries. Outside her little prison, kings rose and fell. Entire empires crumbled into dust. The whole world transformed, but she stayed trapped. And over generations, that glowing fruit on the old tree went from a local curiosity to a scary legend, a cursed treasure of the jinn that absolutely no one dared to touch. But here's the thing about even the most powerful curses. Sometimes they can be broken by the simplest of acts. After centuries of silence, an unexpected hero appears, and he's not drawn by power, but by a dream. The hero of this story isn't some great king or warrior. Nope. It's a guy named Zahid, a kind but very poor farmer whose crops were always failing. One night, a voice in a dream gave him this little sliver of hope. "Go seek the legendary glowing fruit," it said, "and your destiny will change." And even though the legends were terrifying, Zahid's desperation gave him just enough courage to trust the message. So when Zahid finally reached the tree and took the pomegranate, it felt warm in his hands. And from deep inside it, he heard this faint, desperate whisper, "Free me." Mustering all his courage, he pulled out his dagger and sliced it open. And the result was just an explosion of light, as bright and overwhelming as the sun. When the light finally subsided, there she was, Noreen, finally free after all those centuries. And Zahid, who was a kind man with no children of his own, he didn't see a magical being. He saw a lost soul, and he took her in as his own daughter. Noreen's gratitude and light just poured into the village. She healed the sick, and for the very first time, Zahid's crops flourished. The villagers, totally in awe, gave her a new name that fit her story, Anarpari, the Pomegranate Fairy. But you know how these stories go, right? While Anarpari is finding a new life and a new family, old enemies don't sleep forever. And just as one shadow reemerges, a new light appears on the horizon. Of course, such a powerful release of magic doesn't go unnoticed. Miles and miles away, Maya looked into her magic mirror and saw the shattered pomegranate. Her scream of pure fury just echoed through her fortress. The curse was broken. Consumed by rage, she vowed to find this Anarpari and finish what she started all those centuries ago. At the very same time, tales of the beautiful fairy reached a brave young prince named Ion. He traveled to the village, just curious about the legend, but what he found wasn't a myth. He saw Anarpari sitting with the village children, telling stories as her wings shimmered in the light, and he was completely and utterly captivated. So Ayan and Noreen started falling in love down by the river. He even confessed to her, "I have won many wars, but I have always lost the battle of the heart." Their connection was so powerful and pure. But unfortunately for them, a love that bright acts like a beacon, and it basically led Maya's darkness right to their doorstep. And this is it. This sets the stage for the final confrontation. It's no longer just Noreen versus Maya. Now, it's the combined power of love and courage going up against an ancient, bitter darkness. Maya wasted no time. She descended on the village in a terrifying storm, unleashing these dark serpents from the ground. She cornered a weakened Noreen, just savoring her moment of victory. But just as she was about to strike the final blow, Prince Ion, just a man with a sword, charged forward and placed himself directly in her path. He stood firm, a mortal man against ancient magic, and made his stand. "If you want to touch her," he yelled, "you must kill me first." It was this completely selfless declaration, a willingness to sacrifice everything for the woman he loved. And Maya, she just laughed. "Love?" she mocked. "That is no weapon." Oh, but she was wrong. Ion's selfless courage awakened something that had been dormant in Noreen. It was a power far greater than her own innate magic. It was a strength born from connection and sacrifice. She took Ion's hand, and as they joined together, their combined love and courage just erupted into a golden sphere of light. It expanded rapidly, completely engulfing Maya. The witch screamed as her dark magic was unraveled, and she just vanished into a cloud of smoke. Gone for good. With the darkness vanquished for good, the entire realm celebrated. Noreen and Anne were married, and her fairy kin rained flowers down from the sky. And Zahid, the humble farmer who started it all, watched with tears of joy. Together, the fairy and the prince promised to rule not with power, but with the exact same compassion and kindness that had saved them all. You see, the legend of Anarapari is so much more than just a fairy tale. It leaves us with this really compelling question. In a world that so often values raw power, this story suggests that true, world-changing strength is actually found somewhere else entirely, in kindness, in sacrifice, and in the courage to love. What do you think?